The internet is lying to you about Kuala Lumpur, okay? All over Reddit, you'll read that KL is boring, or just a layover destination, or only has shopping malls, and that it isn't nearly as fun as nearby cities like Bangkok or Singapore. Nope, they're all wrong. Sorry, not sorry. In fact, I had one of my favorite travel months ever bopping around this incredible region. My name is Josh, and I'm a digital nomad who lives in a different country every single month. Join me as I explore Kuala Lumpur and the surrounding areas, and I will show you exactly why it is that I think this city is maybe the most underrated city in the entire world by showing you something old, something new, something borrowed, and something blue. We're starting with something old, and this one's easy. There are a lot of really old things in Malaysia in general, but I think my favorite old thing is probably one of Kuala Lumpur's most famous tourist attractions, the Batu Caves. Obviously, caves are like, a part of the earth, so the caves themselves have been here for millions of years, but the man-made structures within the caves are actually quite old as well, with the Hindu shrines you'll see inside being over 100 years old. The Batu Caves are just fascinating. They're a series of natural caves north of Kuala Lumpur that have 272 steps leading up to a major Hindu temple. Additionally, they feature Malaysia's largest statue of the Hindu god Lord Murugan, along with all kinds of other tourist-based activities in the surrounding areas. It's free to enter the main temple, and that will offer you the cultural and religious element, but at the same time, you'll encounter these colorful steps that are very Instagram friendly and are also just like covered with these comically mischievous monkeys. They apparently just steal food and shiny things from you if you're not careful. I love them. Not to mention, climbing these stairs is sort of like taking a hike in its own right. Definitely a bit of a workout. Plus, there is plenty of food in the area, souvenirs. I mean, it really checks all the boxes. While visiting the main cave is free, all along the pathway there are entryways to other caves, which do require payment for admission. But since they're privatized, they tend to be cleaner, more colorful, more lit up, and overall more touristy than the main temple cave. Some people would probably tell you to avoid these, as they are admittedly a bit tourist trappy, but in my opinion, the entry fees are very low, and I think the cool lighting and design and getting a deeper opportunity to explore the caves makes it well worth the price. And so, if I may just stop here for a moment and pose a question. Does this look boring to you, internet? No? Okay, that's what I thought, right? Not boring, okay? Fun. The Batu Caves might be old, and it might be the most popular tourist attraction, but it is definitely not the most iconic sight to behold in KL. That's for sure. That one is new. Kuala Lumpur has some insane architecture among its super modern skyscrapers. Like seriously, they are all so beautiful. I can't get over it. The nighttime skyline of KL is one of my favorites in the entire world for that reason. Everything is lit up in creative and beautiful ways, from the fountains to the temples and even to the markets. But none of the buildings are more impressive than Kuala Lumpur's iconic Petronas Twin Towers. Now, I'm sure that you've seen pictures of these before, but let me tell you that in person, they are something else entirely. They were under construction throughout much of the 1990s and were finally opened to the public in 1999, less than 30 years ago. Okay, I am older than these towers, okay? They are new. On the inside, there is a shopping mall, which okay, fine, whatever. I will say that I did have a fantastic meal inside this mall, which I'll talk all about in my upcoming Kuala Lumpur food video. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't, so you don't miss that. Generally though, I'm not here to talk about what's inside. The magic at the Petronas Towers is on the outside. Aside from the building itself, just being mind-bogglingly beautiful to stand underneath, there is a mega fountain on one side of the towers that literally does water and light shows periodically every single evening, and it's free to watch. I do recognize that talking about these towers is a bit like talking about the Eiffel Tower in Paris, okay? So maybe it's obvious, but I don't know, I kind of don't care. Also, this is not boring, right? This was very exciting. And both this and the Batu caves are free to enter, by the way, so mega bonus points. But now that we've done the old and the new, we can get on to the more ambiguous labels. Something borrowed and something blue. This was a fun one. I feel like an artist interpreting a prompt. What in my experience in Kuala Lumpur represents something borrowed? I actually feel like there are quite a few options here, but I am going to go with the Thean temple. Why? Because it's a 6-tiered Chinese temple and a gorgeous one at that. And I think the idea of Malaysia borrowing, or maybe rather sharing, this cultural aspect of its identity with China is something really beautiful. There is a huge Chinese population within Malaysia. In fact, Malaysia is a very cosmopolitan country in general, with a huge mix of cultures and religions represented throughout its population. The Thean temple is dedicated to Mazu, the Chinese sea goddess, and it is a blend of Buddhist, Taoist, and Confucianist design. And if that's not enough, it basically sits on top of a hill, sort of overlooking Kuala Lumpur. It's so pretty. If you want to see more of the Chinese influence on KL, there's also an amazing Chinatown, which features some beautiful bars and nightlife. I think that one of the biggest critiques of Kuala Lumpur is that its nightlife doesn't compare to places like Bangkok. And you know what? I can concede that point. That said, you can still have a really fun night out in Kuala Lumpur. And considering how much other amazing things there are to do and see in the city, perhaps you can start to see why I'm so mad at the internet for trying to convince me that this place is boring. It is not. And what's even better is that there are so many fun little excursions that you can take to see more sights in the surrounding areas. Blue bioluminescent plankton. Okay, are you not intrigued? There is a day tour out of Kuala Lumpur to a nearby town called Kuala Selangor, and the trip basically has 3 parts. The first part is to visit Bukit Malawati, which is essentially a famous hillside fortress, but the real reason that you go, if we're being honest, is to see these monkeys, because these monkeys are crazy. They love eating food from tourists, and so they kind of just hang out at the top and wait for the tourists to come along and feed them. The second part of the tour is just like, I don't know, like a meal break, eating food. We went to this Chinese restaurant right out on the water, and seeing the sunset over the horizon here was honestly breathtaking. I really think that in another life I was a fisherman or a pirate or something, because seaside sunsets really do something to me. Beautiful. But the real reason I bring all of this up is because the main focus of this tour was a boat ride out into the Selangor River to see 10 million fireflies, finally fulfilling the prophecy as foretold by Owl City, and to see blue bioluminescent plankton. Now, I have to say, this boat ride was mostly in the dark, and cameras like light, so in truth, I'm limited in what I can show you here. As such, I was sort of forced to just live in the moment. I sat in the boat as fireflies came out of the trees and flew all around me. Literally. They were everywhere, in front of us, on my face. Just a magical and otherworldly experience. After we left the firefly trees, we were handed these little nets, not to catch any fish, but instead to splash the water around the boat, which was filled with the bioluminescent plankton. Plankton, which, when disturbed, become a bright blue color. I found it to be the most beautiful behind the rudders of the boat, where the disturbed blue plankton lit up a huge, long blue trail behind us. It felt like something out of a fantasy movie. The wonders of Malaysia are unbelievable, truly. I was so lucky to have the chance to see all these things, and you know what's crazy? This was just the beginning. I had so much to do in my time in this city and this country, between the food and the day trips and the activities, that I am splitting it up into multiple videos. So why do I say that? Because I genuinely have never had such an antithetical experience in my entire travel life. I am talking about how the internet had me expecting to be bored out of my mind in Malaysia, and instead how I constantly found so many amazing and beautiful things to do throughout my month in this country. I absolutely loved it, and I could rave about Malaysia all day. But one thing is for certain, it is not what they say it is online, and I would never have learned that if I wasn't willing to visit and experience it for myself. You are magic. Thank you so much for watching until the end. I really love that about you. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and it would make me really happy if you watch this video next. The algorithm thinks you're really gonna love it.